Thank you, Mr Principal Deputy Speaker, and I don't intend going on for too long. You'll all be very glad to hear and see how this place is slowly emptying. It must be the thought that I was getting up to speak. But look, can I firstly thank all members who have taken part in this debate today. I think there is general unanimity around the House that we need to do something here. I don't know what that something is going to look like, given the financial constraints that we've talked about, but doing nothing, I think, as Mark Durkin had made the point earlier, doing nothing wasn't an option either. That something had to be done. And can I just thank the proposer, Alex Easton. Alex, if anybody knows him, over certainly the last decade, has raised this issue on many, many occasions. It didn't matter who the minister was, it was raised, and we know that we have seen, certainly the minister talked about the last 2 decades, we have seen so many different programmes rolled out over the last 2 decades, whether that was window schemes, whether that was composite doors, boiler replacement, the warm home schemes, the insulation for roofs. There have been numerous over the last 20 years of schemes that have been rolled out to help people living in housing executive accommodation. But I think Sinead had made a really good point earlier that all of these schemes hasn't actually addressed the root and cause issue, which for many is the insulation of the cavity walls in our homes. I, like others, when I first became an MLA, one of my first house visits was to a flat in Rathcoole Estate, where there was a young family who had only just brought their newly born baby girl home from hospital a couple of weeks and asked me to come down. And they're in this beautiful little pink nursery were damp spores all over the walls. I went to that with one of the housing executive officials who came along with me and was able to tell me that they'd been drying clothes in that room and hadn't opened the windows. The usual story that we all hear. This official didn't go outside and check the brickwork, didn't get anybody outside to go and check the guttering, didn't think of going up to the attic to check what the insulation was like. No tests were taking place at all, but he was fit and able to tell me that this was due to closed windows and drying clothes. How many more times are we as elected representatives to hear that old chestnut when we know better? We know that that is not the case. We all own homes, or we all live in homes, and some of us from time to time will have damp in our own homes, and we will know the reason why. So I think it's not good enough that we hear that excuse time and time again. My 2 colleagues behind me both mentioned the Newton Abbey Times article. I know certainly that it was one of our councillors actually was dealing with that, Councillor Ross, and the fight he had on his hands to get an independent review and inspection done in those houses in New Mossley. And when they eventually got an independent review and inspection done on those, that came back to say there is most definitely a really bad case within these houses of dampness. And he's now working on that on behalf of William Humphrey and myself in Skegneel. I got photographs, and Mark had mentioned there earlier too about photographs he's received and some of the horror stories, and we've all received them. I got photographs last week through of a home where the damp was so bad that when they lifted the carpet, which they had to lift, the cement floor was black with mould spores all over the floor of their home. So this wasn't just walls and ceilings, this was the floor also. And yet again, this was another household where they had been accused of drying their washing in the middle of their living room, something that doesn't happen too often. And I do agree with other members who have made mention here, I know Karen had certainly brought it up and others, that this just isn't the responsibility, this isn't just the housing executive, this covers so much more than that. And we have big issues within our private rented sector, we have issues within our housing association sector, but I think that Joanne Bunting made the point that the housing executive are the keeper of standards. So therefore they should be setting that example in showing that. Various members have brought up the issues around the health. I know certainly Kelly Armstrong and Pam Cameron have brought this up as well, just about how the health inequalities for people that live in these conditions, and the inequalities, and others members have said it, when that comes to other aspects of our life, whether that is education, whether that is relationships, all of those things. You want your home, as someone has said, to be your sanctuary, and for many the home is the very last place they want to be because of the conditions. The very last place our young people want to bring their friends home because their house smells of damp and damp spores. Mrs Bunting had also mentioned about Tullycarnet flats and the competition for the flats from hell. I think every one of us in this chamber could enter that competition from somewhere within our own constituencies as to where this problem is and where the problem lies. I listened to the Minister earlier, and those figures for the cavity wall installation was 150 to 175 million. I mean, those are they're eye-watering, they're staggering figures, but we can't do nothing. We have to do something. There are many people out there who have lived in their homes for many, many years, have taken good care of their homes, have pride in their homes, and for them it isn't a house, it is their home. And absolutely, we have a responsibility as their government to make their home as comfortable as possible, to alleviate their health issues, to alleviate their fuel bills. I know that was said something earlier as well, where people were talking. I mean, all we do, and as I say, we've had lots and lots of schemes over the years to replace this, that and the other. But that's great, having really efficient boiler systems in place and great composite front door and great windows. But if you're spending many pounds every week trying to heat your house when the heat is just travelling out the walls, it's a false economy. It's a false economy for all of those people that are living in those homes. So thank you, Mr. Principal Deputy Speaker. I thank everybody for taking part today. I have no doubt that we will be back discussing this again in another couple of years' time. But I think that we need to start making those improvements, and we need to start making them really soon within our housing stock. Thank you.
Thank you.